Stop. Put your phone down right now. That woman who's been ignoring you for the past 3 days, the one who's making you feel like absolute garbage, I'm about to show you how to psychologically destroy her ego so completely that she'll be begging for your attention within 48 hours. And if you're an introvert who's tired of being treated like you're invisible, then this might be the most important thing you ever watch. You know what pisses me off? You opened up to her. You shared something real. You invested your precious introvert energy, and she threw it back in your face with silence. She's probably laughing about it right now, screenshot your messages to her friends, calling you needy or clingy. Meanwhile, you're sitting there like an idiot, wondering if you should text her again. Stop doing that. Stop giving her that power over you, because what I'm about to reveal will flip this entire situation on its head. Carl Jung, the godfather of psychology, discovered something about the female psyche that most men will never understand. Something so powerful that when you apply it, women who ignore you will literally become obsessed with getting your attention back. Here's the brutal truth that no one wants to tell you. She's not just ignoring you. She's psychologically feeding off your desperation. Every time you check your phone, every moment you wonder what went wrong, every second you spend thinking about her, she can feel it energetically. And it's making her ego grow bigger and bigger. You're literally making her feel like a goddess while you sit there feeling like trash. But here's what she doesn't know. Here's what no woman knows about introverts like you. You have a psychological superpower that can destroy her ego faster than she destroyed yours. Jung called it the shadow self, and it's the most dangerous weapon in your arsenal. While extroverts wear their emotions on their sleeves, you can disappear so completely, so utterly, that it creates a psychological black hole in her reality. Think about it. Women are addicted to male attention. It's like cocaine to them. They need constant validation, constant messages, constant proof that men want them. It's how they maintain their self-worth. But when you, an introvert who rarely gives attention to anyone, suddenly goes completely dark, when you disappear from her reality entirely, something terrifying happens in her brain. Panic. Pure, raw, psychological panic. Because suddenly the one person who was giving her that precious validation has vanished. Not angry vanished, not bitter vanished, just gone, like you never existed, and her brain can't handle it. She starts obsessing, she starts wondering, she starts checking if you've seen her posts, she starts asking mutual friends about you, she becomes the desperate one. This is Jung's shadow integration technique, and it's specifically designed for introverts who want to become psychologically untouchable. You're not going to chase her, you're not going to beg, you're not going to explain yourself, you're going to do something far more devastating. You're going to become a psychological mystery that haunts her every waking moment. But here's the kicker, and this is where most guys mess it up completely. You can't do this from a place of hurt feelings or wounded ego. That's just petty revenge, and women can smell that desperation from a mile away. No, you have to do this from a place of complete psychological power. You have to genuinely not give a damn about her response because you've tapped into something much more valuable, your own self-worth. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly how to execute Jung's shadow integration technique. You're going to know the specific psychological triggers that make women obsess over introverts. You're going to learn why your natural introvert traits, the ones you've been ashamed of your whole life, are actually the most powerful weapons you have in relationships. And most importantly, you're going to discover how to become so psychologically complete, so internally powerful, that whether she responds or not becomes completely irrelevant to you. Because when you reach that level of psychological mastery, something magical happens. They all start chasing you. That woman who's ignoring you right now, she thinks she's dealing with the same predictable, analyzable guy she's used to controlling. She has no idea that you're about to transform into someone completely different, someone who understands her psychology better than she understands it herself, someone who can play the game at a level she didn't even know existed. Are you ready to stop being the victim and start being the predator? Are you ready to learn what Jung knew about psychological dominance that 99% of men will never understand? Because everything you thought you knew about power, about relationships, about yourself is about to be completely destroyed and rebuilt from the ground up. Let's begin. Let me tell you something that will piss you off even more than her silence. You're not even obsessed with her. You're obsessed with the fantasy version of her that your mind created. That version of her who understood you, who saw the real you, who wasn't like the others. Bullshit. That wasn't her. That was your anima, your unconscious projection of the ideal woman. Carl Jung warned us about this, but most men never listen, especially introverts. Because when you finally meet a woman who gives you attention, smiles at your quirks, mirrors your interests, your introvert brain locks onto her like a heat-seeking missile. And then it happens. You fall for her without ever really knowing her. You give her a crown she didn't earn. You hand her the keys to your emotional center. And now, she's gone. She's not texting back, she's posting like nothing happened, and you're left with a dopamine crash staring at a ghost of your own making. That pain you're feeling, that twisting in your gut, it's not rejection, it's the death of an illusion. And here's the twisted part. She can feel your obsession, and she's feeding off it. Because when you project your anima onto a woman, she becomes more than human. She becomes a source of power, not just yours, hers. Now she's not just ignoring you, she's absorbing your energy. Every time you reread that last message, every time you wonder what you did wrong, every time you imagine her with someone else, you're bleeding out your masculine energy, and she's getting high off the fumes. You think silence is noble, you think you're being patient, you think she'll come around. But you're not being patient, you're being predictable. And women don't obsess over predictable men. They don't fantasize about soft energy they can manipulate. They crave the man who disappears with power. Not bitterness, not pettiness. Just silence. Cold. Controlled. Deadly. Here's what most introverts don't realize. She's testing you. Yes, even her silence is a test. Not to see if you care, but to see how much control she has over your mind. She wants to know, can I twist his reality without saying a word? Can I shake his confidence with a delayed reply? Can I watch him emotionally unravel without lifting a finger? Because if the answer is yes, she owns you. And once she owns you, the attraction dies. It has to, because a woman cannot desire a man she feels psychologically superior to. This is the game Jung was talking about. It's not just shadow work. It's not just therapy. This is warfare. And most introverts show up to the battlefield with a wounded heart and open arms. That's why you keep losing, because she's not trying to see your soul, she's trying to see your shadow. She wants to know if there's a part of you that can't be controlled, something dark, something unpredictable, something that says, you think you hurt me? No, sweetheart, you revealed me. You don't need to yell, you don't need to beg, you don't need to explain a damn thing, you just withdraw, not from fear, from power. Because when an introvert fully reclaims his anima, when he collapses the fantasy, when he stops worshipping her and starts watching her, everything changes. She can feel it. She'll post more, try harder. She'll suddenly reply, ha ha, to an old message just to see if the leash still fits. It won't. Because you're no longer the version of yourself she ignored. You're the version she doesn't understand, and that's what terrifies her. Let me make this crystal clear. You don't become powerful by yelling at her. You don't win by calling her out. You win by transforming into a psychological mystery, by making her question why her games don't work on you anymore, by becoming so detached, so self-contained, so untouchable that she feels the void of your absence like a black hole in her reality. And here's the secret. She doesn't miss you. She misses the power she had over you. Take that away, and she falls apart. This isn't manipulation. This isn't revenge. This is restoration. Restoring your power, restoring your dignity, restoring your identity as a man who cannot be hypnotized by pretty lies and flirty scraps of attention. You want to destroy her ego? Don't yell, don't text, don't chase. Just stop imagining she was ever who you thought she was. Withdraw the anima, reclaim the projection, step back into your frame, and watch what happens next. She'll come back. They always do. Not because you chased, but because you disappeared so cleanly, so confidently, that it shook something in her. It made her doubt herself, and in that doubt, she becomes addicted to the very silence she once used to control you. Congratulations, you just flipped the script. Let's keep going. Let's stop pretending the problem is just her. You're not here because one woman ignored you. You're here because this keeps happening. Different face, same silence, and every time you fall apart just a little faster. So no, this isn't about her. This is about you. More specifically, about the fatal mistakes you keep making. Because you're an introvert. And if you don't face them now, you're going to keep reliving this same nightmare in 100 different skins. Fatal mistake number 1. Overanalysis paralysis. You sit with your thoughts like they're gospel. You replay every interaction in high-definition slow motion. You scan her last message like it's a secret code. Did that emoji mean she's upset? Why did she wait 4 hours to reply? Was that exclamation mark sarcastic? Stop. You're not decoding a puzzle. You're spiraling. Introverts are cursed with internal dialogue that never shuts up. You think you're being careful, considerate, respectful, but what you're really doing is eroding your own confidence with every loop. Meanwhile, she's not analyzing a damn thing. She's out living. While you're inside overthinking your last hey, overanalysis isn't intelligence, it's fear in disguise. Fatal mistake number 2. The emotional investment error. You open up too fast, you reveal too much, you give too deeply, because you're not used to connection. So when you get even a hint of it, you pour out your soul like it's water in a desert. But here's the problem. You're not investing, you're leaking. And women can feel it, the desperation behind your vulnerability, the neediness beneath your openness. They won't say it out loud, but their subconscious is screaming, "This man is starving and he wants me to feed him." That's not attractive. That's a burden. No woman wants to be your emotional oxygen tank. She wants a man who chooses her, not one who clings to her for sure. Survival fatal mistake number 3, the authenticity trap. You've been told your whole life, just be yourself, but no one ever told you what to do when yourself gets rejected. So you show up as your soft, gentle, introverted self. You speak with honesty, you text with emotion, and when she pulls away, you double down on being real. But here's the truth Jung tried to explain. The authentic self is a fantasy. It's a persona, just like the mask you wear at work, with friends, on social media. And when your authenticity is just your niceness, your oversharing, your long paragraphs about how much you care, you're not being real, you're being emotionally exposed and energetically unprotected. That doesn't create intimacy. It creates imbalance, and imbalance kills attraction faster than anything else. Fatal mistake number 4, the retreat and ruminate cycle. She ghosts. You hurt, so you do what every wounded introvert does best. You vanish. Not powerfully, pathetically. You retreat into silence, hoping she'll notice, but you're not doing it to reclaim your power. You're doing it to avoid the pain of confrontation. You start imagining scenarios where she realizes her mistake, where she texts you again, where she says she was wrong. And while you sit in that dream, days go by, your energy sinks deeper, and now the pain becomes your identity. You don't move on, you ruminate, and every day you wait, you teach her one thing. You're the one who got hurt, she's the one with power. The shadow integration failure. This is the core mistake, the one that infects everything else. You have not integrated your masculine shadow. You're too soft, too polite, too concerned with how you're being perceived. You confuse kindness with attractiveness. You think avoiding conflict makes you lovable. You think being nice will earn you devotion. No, it earns you nothing. Not because women want bad boys, but because women want men who are whole, and a man who has rejected his own aggression, dominance, and unpredictability. He's not whole, he's harmless, and nothing kills feminine desire faster than a man she knows will never challenge her, never walk away, never shake her world. The cumulative psychological damage. Here's what happens over time. You keep giving, you keep losing, you keep retreating. And now, you don't even believe in your own worth. You've built an identity around being overlooked, misunderstood, disrespected. You think love is for other men. You think attraction is a game you're not wired for. You tell yourself things like, I guess I'm just not her type. Women don't like introverts. Maybe I'm too deep for people. No, you're not too deep. You're too passive. So what now? You want to destroy her ego? You can't do that while still handing her your self-worth like it's a damn gift basket. You need to flip this from the inside out. It starts with shadow work, not journaling, not manifesting. I'm talking real, psychological integration of the parts of you that you've buried. That inner fire, that indifference, that silent confidence that doesn't need her text to feel whole. Because the introvert who walks through hell, faces his patterns, and decides he will never play the victim again. He becomes unstoppable. Not loud, not flashy, but untouchable. Let's be clear. This isn't about becoming a new man, it's about becoming tall. He man you were before the world made you apologize for your power. Let's burn the old version of you to the ground, because the next part of this journey, that's where you get dangerous. Let's move. Enough playing defense, enough overthinking, enough sitting in silence hoping she texts back. It's time to counterattack. Not with words, not with passive-aggressive stories, not with sad quotes on your IG, with psychological precision. The kind Carl Jung warned most people would never understand because it requires facing the one thing you've avoided your whole life, your shadow. Phase 1. Shadow integration. Here's the truth. She ignored you because you're too easy to figure out. You're predictable, safe, emotionally transparent. She didn't ignore you because you weren't good enough. She ignored you because there was no tension left, no polarity, no edge. So here's your first weapon. Darkness. Not toxicity, not manipulation, but the part of you that you've spent your whole life suppressing, your masculine aggression, your detachment, your psychological silence. Jung called it the shadow self, and once you embrace it, everything changes. You're no longer broadcasting, I'm a nice guy who just wants love. You're radiating, I'm a self-contained storm, and I choose when to strike. And that shift, it's felt, immediately. Because women aren't attracted to niceness. They're attracted to mystery wrapped in control. Phase 2, the anima withdrawal strategy. You want to stop hurting? Take her off the pedestal you built. No more romanticizing her. No more fantasy. No more projecting your emotional hunger onto someone who clearly doesn't value it. Withdraw the anima, that inner image of the ideal woman that you slapped onto her face without her earning it. Because here's the dark secret. You weren't even in love with her. You were in love with the reflection of your unmet needs. And once you collapse that illusion, a new man is born. She's not special anymore. She's just a woman who got a taste of your emotional power and thought she could weaponize it. Now, you're starving her of that power. You go dark, not out of sadness, out of strategy. No, I hope you're okay. No, just checking in. No, I'm here if you ever want to talk. That's over. Now, it's radio silence, but not the weak kind. I'm talking complete energetic detachment. Your thoughts, off her, your body, busy, your presence, gone. She doesn't even exist in your reality anymore. And that creates a psychological vacuum she can't ignore. Because when the attention disappears, when the emotional current stops flowing, when the man she thought she could control vanishes, she spirals. She checks your profile. She stalks your followers. She wonders why the hell it doesn't hurt you like it hurt everyone else. Phase 3, the depth psychology reversal. This is where it gets surgical. While she was testing you emotionally, you were observing her unconsciously. You saw the way she posted thirst traps after arguments. You noticed the silence she used to bait your attention. You watched how she always had a backup guy in orbit just in case you pulled away. That wasn't random. That was pattern. And now you use it. You no longer play from emotion. You play from awareness. She thinks she's playing chess, but you're playing. Jungian strategy. You reverse the roles. She used to be the mirror. Now you're the mirror. You reflect back her behavior so subtly she won't even realize she's being deconstructed. That's when you become dangerous, because you're not reacting. You're studying, you're redirecting, you're leading. Phase 4, the mysterious introvert persona. Let's talk about the superpower that only introverts possess. Mystique. You don't need to post flashy stories. You don't need to prove your worth. You don't need to explain why you're gone. You just are. And that silence, it's louder than anything you could say. The mysterious introvert is the most psychologically terrifying man a woman can encounter, because she can't predict him. He doesn't argue. He doesn't beg. He doesn't post sad songs. He vanishes, with purpose. And that silence, it becomes a black hole that pulls her back in. She thought you were weak. Now she's not even sure she ever understood you at all. Tactical execution for introverts. Let's break this down into moves you can actually use. Psychological invisibility. Stop posting, stop commenting, stop orbiting her world, create digital absence. Observational sharpness. Watch her behavior from a distance. Learn her patterns. Don't react. Record. Energy conservation power play. No emotional leakage. You don't give her a damn drop of reaction unless it serves your frame. You're no longer the soft-spoken overthinker hoping for connection. You're a psychological force, contained, calibrated, and controlled. And she feels the shift. Not because you told her, because you became it. Jung's individuation process. Let's take this deeper. Jung said the ultimate goal of man is to become whole, to integrate all fragments of the self into one complete being. You want to destroy her ego? Start by becoming a man whose presence can't be ignored. Not because it's loud, but because it's undeniably whole. The man who doesn't chase, who doesn't seek validation, who doesn't flinch at silence. The man whose psychological roots run so deep that women can feel them when he walks into a room. That's you. But only if you're willing to do the work. You want her to beg. Cool. But by the time she does, you won't even care. Because you'll be operating from such a deep place of self-possession that her attention feels like a discount compared to your inner peace. That's the Jungian reversal. She was your mirror. Now you're hers. And she won't like what she sees. Let's keep going. You've stopped chasing, you've pulled back your projection, you've watched her ego spiral the moment you went silent. But this isn't the endgame, because what happens after the silence, after the counterattack, is what separates a man who wins once from a man who never loses again. You don't just want to destroy her ego, you want to build something. She can never shake, a presence she'll remember even if you never speak again, a psychological gravity field that doesn't pull her in, it holds her there. That presence. That's called frame. And what Jung discovered is that for introverts, the most powerful frame isn't built on dominance. It's built on integration. Step 1. The individuation process. Jung said the highest purpose of life is individuation. The integration of every fragmented part of you into a unified whole. The loud, the quiet, the loving, the cold, the logical, the animal. When you're fractured, women feel it. They sense your self-doubt, they see the cracks in your emotional armor, and they test those cracks, because unconsciously they don't want to walk beside a boy wearing a mask. They want to walk beside a man who's faced every demon inside him and didn't run. That's the integrated introvert. Not loud, not performative, just whole. And that wholeness, it makes you untouchable. Step 2. The shadow work protocol. Let's be brutally honest. If she can still shake you with silence, you haven't done your shadow work. You're still outsourcing your power, still handing women the emotional remote control, still hoping being nice will earn you attraction. It won't. Women don't respond to the man who avoids conflict. They respond to the man who isn't afraid of it. You want real shadow integration? Start by confronting your repressed masculine traits, the ones society told you to hide. Your anger, your assertiveness, your desire to walk away without explaining a damn thing. These aren't flaws, they're weapons. And the introvert who learns to wield them without losing control, that man doesn't get ghosted, he gets remembered. Step 3. Anima integration. We've talked about anima projection. Now it's time to reclaim that energy. Stop expecting women to complete you. Stop falling in love with their potential. Stop making them the keepers of your emotional center. Because here's the truth. Your inner feminine, your capacity for beauty, intuition, connection, doesn't belong to her. It belongs to you. The integrated introvert doesn't project his anima onto a woman. He meets her after he's already balanced his own. And that balance, it makes him magnetic. Because now he's not seeking love. He is love. Directed, controlled, unshakable. Step 4. Using the introvert's natural advantages. You're not broken. You're built different. And it's time you used that difference like a blade. Introverts have the 3 most powerful traits in the game. Psychological depth. You see people. You read beneath the surface. Use that. Selective energy. You don't give your time to everyone. That makes your attention valuable. Emotional intensity. You don't feel lightly. You feel deeply. That's not a flaw. That's fuel. But only if you control it. Because if your depth turns into overthinking, if your selectiveness becomes isolation, if your intensity turns into obsession, you become your own enemy. But if you channel that power through your frame, you become the man she never saw coming and can't forget. Step 5. Building true confidence. You don't need pickup lines. You don't need alpha posturing. You don't need 50 dates. You need alignment. When what you think, say, and do all match, that's when confidence is born. That's when you stop needing women to validate your masculinity. Because your masculinity isn't based on her reaction. It's based on your embodied energy. The way you move, the way you observe, the way you hold eye contact. Not to impress, but because you don't flinch. That kind of quiet confidence. It hits harder than any alpha male act ever could. Step 6. The psychological fortress. This is the final layer. The shield that turns you from attractive into untouchable. You stop needing approval. You stop waiting for closure. You stop reacting to her emotional shifts. You become your own psychological center. She can text or not. She can post or vanish. You remain unmoved. And here's the paradox. The moment she realizes her silence no longer hurts you is the moment she starts fearing losing your presence. Because now she's not dealing with a boy craving attention. She's standing in front of a man who doesn't chase, doesn't explain, and doesn't break. A man who walks away with peace in his chest and fire in his eyes. That's the fortress. And once you build it, you don't chase women, you attract gravity. Step 7. Jung's final stage. Self-realization. This is where everything changes. The integrated introvert doesn't just want women, he wants truth, he wants freedom, he wants a life that mirrors his internal power, not one built on likes, replies, or attention. When you reach this level, you don't care if she texts back, because you know. She felt you, she saw you, and she'll remember you, long after the guys she chased are forgotten, because women forget noise, they never forget presence, especially the kind that doesn't need them. So now the real question, are you building your fortress, or are you still begging at the gates of hers? Let's take this to the final level. You've destroyed her ego. Now it's time to become the introvert she can never touch again. Let's finish this. She's going to come back. They always do. Maybe it'll be a late-night message, maybe a random story reply, maybe a fake excuse to check in, but make no mistake, she will return. Because silence cuts deeper than anger, and the introvert who's mastered his inner world, he leaves behind a void too heavy to ignore. But here's the catch. You're not waiting for her. You're not planning your comeback message. You're not preparing some perfect response, because by now, you've outgrown the need for it. You're no longer playing her game. You've built a new one, and she doesn't know the rules. Jung's final concept, the transcendent function. Jung said that when opposites within you are integrated, your light and dark, your anima and shadow, a third energy is born. Not a compromise, a transformation. This is the transcendent function, the final stage of psychological development. You're not just a healed introvert, you're a reforged one. Still quiet, but never timid. Still deep, but now sharp. Still feeling, but fully in control. And women? They don't understand this version of you, because he can be warm, and then cold, present, and then gone, emotionally intelligent, but psychologically detached. You've become unpredictable. And that unpredictability? That's the source of your power now, when she comes back, and she will. Not because you manipulated her, but because you removed the supply, the energetic addiction she fed on when you needed her. So what do you do when she comes back? You don't gloat. You don't punish. You observe. You look into the same eyes that once broke you, and feel nothing but clarity. Because the introvert who's done the inner work no longer seeks closure. He is closure. You may engage. You may not. But either way, she no longer holds the script. You do. The integrated introvert lifestyle. Let's get something straight. Sigh. Ecological mastery isn't about being cold. It's about being calibrated. The integrated introvert doesn't avoid relationships. He just doesn't collapse into them. He maintains his edge. He speaks less, but every word hits. He doesn't compete for space. He creates it with his presence. And here's what's wild. He doesn't even try to be attractive. He is attractive because he's real, not needy real, not oversharing real, rooted in truth, rooted in purpose, rooted in the unshakable confidence of a man who no longer needs to be chosen. The psychological toolkit. If you've made it this far, you now carry weapons most men will never touch. Dream work, tapping into unconscious insight to understand patterns, active imagination, building internal conversations with your shadow to stay in alignment, frame control. Mastering the emotional tone of every interaction, anima discipline, no longer projecting fantasy onto undeserving women, energetic withdrawal, the most devastating move in the introvert's arsenal. This isn't dating advice. This is psychological warfare, and you've trained your mind like a soldier trains his trigger finger. Quiet, precise, deadly. The transformation promise, you started as the ghosted, the overthinker, the too nice, too deep, too soft introvert, who never got the girl and always blamed himself. But now you're beyond chasing. You've become the man she never got to finish, the one she couldn't predict, the one whose silence didn't scream hurt. It whispered, you blew it. You've stepped into your psychological prime, where you don't need to be seen because you see yourself, where you don't need validation because you carry power in your stillness, where the woman who once ignored you now whispers your name in her thoughts over and over, wondering, how did I lose him? Why did he vanish like that? Who is he now? She doesn't know, and that's the part that haunts her. Jung's final teaching. Jung didn't just teach psychology. He gave us a map to personal sovereignty. He didn't want men to become liked. He wanted them to become whole. Because a man who has faced his anima, who has integrated his shadow, who has reclaimed his energy and walked away without a word, that man doesn't need revenge. His presence is the lesson, the introvert's challenge. Now it's your turn. To stop being the ghosted and become the ghost, to stop being the sensitive victim and become the psychological riddle she can't solve, to stop trying to be seen and start embodying gravity. Because when you do, you don't need to destroy her ego. She'll do that herself when she realizes you're never coming back.